problems with my computer trying to get my videos to download from iMovie. So I've been editing them in iMovie, and then I try to, export them as a file to then upload to YouTube. And my computer just keeps saying, nope, file too large. I've been deleting things, making sure like big things I don't need are like deleted off my computer, and still I cannot get my July wrap-up video done. So I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna wait anymore. I'm just gonna go live, because then I don't have to worry about the space issue. So I know this is a weird time of day. I have a feeling probably no one is gonna be watching live, and that's okay, but I just wanted to get the video up because otherwise I probably wouldn't if I tried to do it the regular way. So I don't know what I'm gonna do about the computer space issue for next videos. I guess I might have to get another external hard drive maybe and start doing things on that. I hate doing that, but that's what I might have to do. I use my computer for work, and I, teach online, so I have a lot of files for that too. So it's just like a lot of things compounding. So anyway, enough of me rambling. Let's talk about the 3 books that I read at the beginning of August. Okay, so the first book that I read in August was called Beaux and Dragons, and this is part of a novella series that is multi-author called The Realms of Lurin. This particular story was written by Candice Pedraza-Yemnitz, something like that. And I was instantly drawn to this book because it's dragons fantasy meets persuasion by Jane Austen, and I thought that was so fun. So it is a novella, so it is short. It's a pretty quick read. However, it felt decently full to me. It didn't feel like super short, and it was really well written. And I actually read this as an arc, and I'm so glad I did because it was so cute. It is out now. It is released, so you're able to read it if you want to. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about it. So we have our main character, Anna, and she has dragons. Her family has dragons. She's very well-to-do. She has an obnoxious father and sisters, as per, the typical persuasion. And there is a man, or I guess when the story starts, he's a boy named Federico, and his father works for them, I think as a dragon trainer or in the dragon stables, something like that. And so they kind of grow up with each other. They have been friends since they were little kids, and eventually both of their feelings develop into something more. However, they both kind of know nothing can happen because he's, from a lower class than her. His father works for her family. They know that her father will never agree because he, wants her to marry the richest, most powerful person in the kingdom, basically. And so, yeah, the tension builds. And finally, they're kind of like, you know what, we like each other, whatever. And they start to kind of get together, and then it falls apart and they're separated. He gets sent off, and they don't see each other for many years. So then, of course, he comes back into the picture later. He's suddenly wealthy. He's kind of made himself into a dragon racer owner, I guess. It's fantasy, right? So it's hard to it's sometimes hard to make it be the right words, because I'm like, this is completely made up, so I don't know what that thing's called. So yeah, anyway, he comes back, he's wealthy. Anna's family, or Anna, I don't know if it's Anna or Anna, there are a lot of Spanish language in the book. It almost is like they used Spain or Portugal kind of as the setting in the book, but it's fantasy, so there's a lot of words with a Spanish flair. So I'm guessing it's Anna, but anyway, her family is now struggling. They're gonna need to sell their house and go move to another city and downsize because they can't keep up their property. And Federico, who's now rich, swoops in and offers to buy the house. And her father agrees, but he's not happy about it. It's like a pride issue, right? Because this person used to work for him and be a stable boy for their dragons. So it gets very complicated, and it's the typical persuasion story, you know, as that kind of unfolds. So you've got some other characters who kind of come in, kind of a younger, sillier girl who is like trying to go after Frederico, but it's making Anna very jealous. Frederico pretends to be interested in her, gives her a lot of attention, but really he's still hung up on Anna. So it's like that whole typical thing. She gets injured, he has to go take care of her, everybody feels bad. It's like the total, like the persuasion parts were so good and so matched the original story really well. But meanwhile, they're traveling through this fantasy land, and Anna ends up entering herself into the dragon races because all of the sudden there's been a change in the rules, and now female riders are allowed to enter. So she's kind of like sneaking off to go do dragon racing things. She ends up meeting a dragon racer that works for Frederico, and he ends up offering to like help her prepare for the races and all of these things. So there's like a lot to it, even though it's a short book, so I don't want to say too much. But what I enjoyed about this book were dragons, duh, of course. The persuasion retelling, like I said, chef's kiss. Anna and Frederico's romance. I just really like the romance in persuasion in general. So I did enjoy their dynamic. And then you kind of throw in like the dragon parts, and it just made it even more fun and interesting. I thought it was like a fun twist on like the females being allowed to dragon race in this place where like females couldn't do that before. So it did almost have like that Regency vibe where like women weren't allowed to do as many things, and now suddenly they are. So that was really fun. The secret dragon flights. I'm just gonna say that. You're gonna have to read to learn more, but let's just say it was kind of giving like Aladdin and Jasmine and their carpet ride. That's the vibes I was getting. And then yeah, it was just like a really interesting fantasy world. I definitely wanted to know more about it. So I am a little sad because I don't think there will be a second, follow-up book to this book because it was a multi-author series and they're novellas. So I don't know, I might have to go back and read some of the other authors' novellas because they take place on like different islands in the realm, and see if I like them as much as I liked this one. I did really enjoy the author's writing. So that was, yeah, that's kind of a bummer. I'll have to go look at her backlist too and see what else she writes. Now this one was not, it wasn't like labeled as Christian fiction, but it did have some light faith content. So it was like, you could tell the characters like had a Christian faith. There were on-page prayer a couple of times, just mentions of them doing, going to church or doing this. So yeah, I would say the characters had more of like a Christian lifestyle than this being like a distinctly Christian fiction story with heavy faith themes, but it was present. So, for being what it was, the focus was definitely on the Jane Austen retelling and the dragon fantasy part. But it was enough faith for me to be like, yeah, this feels Christian fiction-y enough for me to recommend on the channel. So anyway, a couple of content warnings. And again, these are in persuasion. So if you're okay with persuasion, I imagine you'd be okay with this. But there was flirting with another person to get their attention while still being in love with that person. And then there was some mild dragon violence. But it's fantasy, right? So that's expected. My rating for this story was 4.5 stars overall. I gave the rating 4.0. The characters and plot was 5 for me. I loved the characters and the plot. The faith and content, I gave a 4 just because it was very light faith content, but it was still there. Enjoyability, I gave a 5 star. I really enjoyed the book overall. I can't remember specifically why I gave the writing only a 4. I know there was a reason, but I can't remember what it was. So yeah, if you like Jane Austen retellings, this is the problem with live, guys. If you like Jane Austen retellings, I think you'll really like this. If you like a dragon fantasy, you'll really like this. The story was engaging right off the bat. I was like hooked into it. She gets pretty much straight into it, which is good since it's a novella and it's shorter length. Like I said, the characters were fun. It was a really unique take on the original Persuasion characters without being too same. And yeah, she just really nailed the interesting blend of those two elements. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. So like I said, I'll probably try another one of the author's stories in this series just to see if it's as good. But I'll definitely be checking out this author's and seeing what else she has, because I really enjoyed her style and her writing. So yeah, that was book one. Highly recommend for anybody who likes either of those kind of genres or unique blending of genres. All right, next up, the book that I read second in August was called Spurs and Sparks, and this is book number 1 in the Healing Springs Ranch series, and this is by Jodi Hedlund. And I'm gonna be honest, you guys, I am way behind writing my reviews, so these next two are gonna be off-cuff reviews. I can't pull from my Goodreads reviews because I haven't done them yet. Things are crazy around here. School started at the beginning of August and it has not stopped. Like, we normally get people enrolling like at the last second, and then we get it all figured out and it's good, but like people just keep enrolling and we're already 3 weeks into the year. So it's been busy. I've been dealing with like all the moving logistics, so feeling behind, guys. Okay, so Spurs and Sparks. This is one that I had on my list. I didn't know much about the series or the author, and I kind of just added it on a whim because if I'm being honest, guys, I saw the cover and I was like, I need to read that book. It's really cute. It was giving like late summer, early fall vibes. And yeah, the premise of the book sounded really fun. So we have a character named Tyler. He's part of like a family ranch resort, and there's kind of like this lore with the McQuaid family, that the men in the McQuaid family fall fast, they fall hard, and it's for life. But Tyler has already been married and divorced and kind of doesn't believe in the McQuaid, love magic or whatever you want to call it, until 𝐭, and this was such a hard name to read because I kept wanting to read it as 𝐭∫Lee, but it's 𝐭∫ which is so unique. Anyway, 𝐭 is a traveling nurse. She had been dealing with the loss of her sister who had passed away a few years ago. I don't remember if it was cancer or leukemia. It was something like that. So that might be a trigger warning for some people. She does kind of do some flashbacks about that time in her life. Not many, but some. So anyway, she gets assigned to go take care of Tyler's dad, who had a health incident and now needs like an at-home nurse to care for him and try to get him better. So 𝐭 is the one who gets assigned to his case. She shows up. I think this takes place in Colorado. That sounds right. Trying to remember off cuff. And so yeah, she gets there and immediately her and Tyler are like just like mortal enemies. They just seem to repel the other one so hard. Of course, as the reader, we know this is actually intense romantic chemistry that they haven't realized is chemistry yet, and they're just driving each other crazy, clashing constantly, fighting over how 𝐭 cares for the dad. Tyler wants her to do this, and she's saying like, dude, I'm the best in my company, like, trust me. He keeps not trusting her, so it ends up being this whole thing, and the rest of the family can see what Tyler can't see, and that's that these two are like actually a great match for each other. So the first good bit of the book is just them like fighting with each other, and then it kind of transitions into them kind of realizing, oh wait, like I'm actually feeling attraction to this person, and now they're navigating kind of like exploring that, but it's causing all kinds of problems because 𝐭 now is kind of focused on their relationship, kind of maybe we should call it a situationship, and she feels like now she's dropping balls with the dad's care, but the dad and the mom are like, no, it's okay, go on dates, like it's fine. So there's like this whole tension between her doing her job really well, which is like what she really prides herself on, versus now like trying to see what's there between her and Tyler. They kind of get into it, it causes a whole thing, and she ends up trying to leave, and then comes back after realizing like, you know what, no, I really do need to finish out my job assignment and and at least do that. If nothing happens between me and Tyler, so be it, but I at least need to finish what I started. So that's kind of the premise of the story. I really enjoyed the ranch resort setting. It's kind of cool. They had started it off, the resort, a few generations ago with Tyler's like grandpa or maybe even great grandpa. And they've kind of continued it, and Tyler's dad had really developed it into a luxury resort, and now Tyler has like even made it kind of more prominent. So this is like a very expensive luxury resort out on the ranch. And yeah, that part of like managing the ranch and them talking about it was really fun. The traveling nurse aspect was really interesting. I'm not a big like medical person, so there were some parts that, you know, they were talking about like medical care and I was like, meh, okay. But I did really like the dynamic in the story of like, it's kind of a forbidden romance because, you know, she's there to work, not to date. Although the family is all for it. And yeah, it was a really fun story. And I ended up liking this one a lot more than I anticipated, which is great. So I did write down my rating so I didn't forget. And I'll have to average this out later, but I gave the writing 4.5 stars, characters and plot 5, faith and content I gave 3. And what's interesting is this one is labeled as a Christian fiction / Western / contemporary romance / clean romance, but it was labeled Christian. But I found the faith to be extremely, extremely light, almost non-existent in this one. So I would probably say, again, this is more of a clean romance with characters who have Christian faith and sometimes mention it, but not very much. So it was still, like I said, still very enjoyable. I gave it 5.0 stars, 5 stars for enjoyability overall. So, you know, overall that probably works out to 4 to 4.5 stars. So like I said, it was a book that I did overall really enjoy. And I would recommend it, but just know if you're somebody who likes really strong faith themes that you're not going to see that in this one. But it was still definitely worth a read. It definitely, like I said, gave those like end of summer, early fall vibes where like it's cooling down in the evenings, even a little bit chilly, but the day is still warm. And yeah, I really enjoyed the setting and the characters and their romance. So that's all I can think of to share right now, because like I said, I didn't really write my review on this one. But I do recommend it as a cute end of summer read if you're okay with a really light faith elements, I guess. All right, last of the 3 books that I have read in August is Home in the Mountains. This is book 1 in the Shamrock Ridge series by Rachel Wesson. This was also a new to me author. So all 3 of my books in the beginning of August were new to me authors, which was fun. This one is a clean historical Irish mail order brides book. That's a mouthful. And I chose it because I do love a good mail order bride story, and I do really enjoy like the Irish immigrant kind of stories that are historical. And so yeah, it sounded cute. Again, the cover is adorable. I love the cover of the book. It's really pretty. This one does not actually have on Goodreads it's not tagged in terms of the genres or, you know, if it's Christian fiction or not. Let me check on Amazon to see how they tagged it. I can tell you my thoughts on it for sure though. Okay, so yeah, this one is actually just as a American historical romance and frontier and pioneer Western fiction. So again, this is one that was not labeled Christian fiction. And I don't think I realized that until after I had already included it on my list. But I think what I had seen in the reviews was that there is some like Catholic briefly in. Oops, sorry, I don't know what happened there. The characters have a Catholic faith, and it is mentioned several times, and there is a little bit of prayer in the story. So again, this one was light on the faith. It was there, but it's not like the focus of the story. And again, this month is kind of weird because I don't typically read and recommend books with so little faith in them. But I just really liked the premise of the story, and I'm not against reading a book that is clean and not specifically Christian, but I try to only recommend ones that are specifically, you know, Christian here on my channel. So again, if you want really strong faith content, this one does not have it, but it had enough where like you could tell the characters were trying to live a good Christian life. They pray, you know, they mention their faith. You know, there are Bibles mentioned in the story. They have Bibles, things like that. So, you know, take it or leave it, up to you guys, as always. All right, this story takes place at the beginning in New York. Our main character, Ivy, who is of Irish descent and an immigrant, she lives in the Irish section of New York City, is really struggling with life there. It's really hard for anybody who's read kind of that time period, like mid 1800s. It's really hard to be an immigrant in New York at that time, especially as an Irish person. Anybody who knows a little bit about that history knows that Irish people were not treated very well in America originally. And to top things off, her brother, her last living relative, had passed away, and she is not well-to-do. She's very poor, and now this guy who had been friends with her brother before the war is kind of stalking her and wants her to repay what her brother owed this guy in debts. And he's not just like going after her as like a creditor, he's like legit like stalking her and like trying to intimidate her into paying back what her brother owed him. She doesn't have anything to give him, and she's like, listen, you know, I'm really sorry my brother did that to you. Like, it's hard for me to believe, but like I believe you, but like I have nothing to give you. You know, he's passed away. Let's just call his debt, you know, gone, because he's no longer here. But this guy doesn't want to give up on this. So she is working for and living in a house with this lady who does like a boarding house for Irish immigrants, and she also kind of works as a mail order matchmaker. And so she kind of starts talking to Ivy about like, hey, you know, I know this is not something you've considered, but like, what do you think about being a mail order bride? I have this, you know, also Irish immigrant friend out. Oh, this one's Colorado. So maybe, I don't know if the other one was Colorado, the Spurs one, or if that was somewhere else. This one was definitely Colorado though. I have this friend out in Colorado, and she's helping me make matches. I have some other friends out in different states, you know, out in the mountains, and they have men who are looking for wives too. So she ends up connecting Ivy with this man that she knows about through a friend in Colorado named Cormac Burke, and basically tells her like, hey, this man is looking for a mail order bride. He is really looking for a work partner to help him care for his ranch. It's very remote, it's very rural, it's a lot of hard work. He's not, you know, asking for a romantic partner or looking for that. He really just wants someone who can help him manage the home, manage the ranch, and it's more of a business partnership than it is like a romantic match. So she, you know, kind of weighs the pros and cons. She ultimately decides to go because this guy who's stalking her, hoping that she can kind of get away from him and start a new life. And she's excited by the prospect of, you know, having her own home. Even though she knows it's going to be hard, maybe it won't be so much of a struggle, just her being alone in New York City. So she starts corresponding with Cormac, and they only really have a couple months. It's like almost winter when they start talking, and they both know she can't travel until spring when the ice melts and they can get through the pass out to where he lives. So they start exchanging a couple of letters, and honestly, I think they were only able to exchange maybe 2 to 3 letters on each side before she was supposed to go out. And the agreement was kind of like, okay, when spring comes, like, you'll decide if you want to still come or not after our correspondence. So she decides to go. She gets in a wagon, or I think maybe it starts as a train and then wagons, whatever it is, to get out there. She shows up in the little tiny town close by to where they live. I think the town is called Shamrock Ridge. And she meets the lady who was kind of the matchmaker with her friend in New York, and she introduces her to Cormac, and they, you know, get married right away, and she goes to his ranch, and now they're there. And another interesting element to this is before she had come, he had taken on 2 black workers. They were kind of just passing through looking for work, and they were former slaves and they had fought in the Civil War, and he has them on at the ranch because he needs so much help. So some of the townspeople are not super thrilled that there are former slaves and black people working on his ranch, and there's some tension with that. So when Ivy gets out there, she meets all the guys. So there's 4 of them now on the ranch all together, and she kind of gets to work right away. She rolls her sleeves up and she's like, all right, I'm here to work. I'm here to help him. And she does that. And you can tell that she's like a really hard worker. She really wants to do her part to be what he asked for. But, some feelings start swirling, some emotions start taking place. There's definitely an instant attraction between both of them. I think when they both first saw each other before they got married in the town, they were both like, oh wow, okay, did not expect that. They were both kind of secretly pleased, like, okay, maybe this could be more. We'll see how it goes. So as they kind of keep working together and living together, things kind of develop. But one thing I loved about Cormac's character is he's trying really hard to be so respectful of the fact that they are essentially strangers that are now living together, and he really wants to like give her space, and he's open to things, but kind of wants it to develop organically. He's not trying to push anything on her. They have separate bedrooms, they say goodnight sweetly. I think eventually they start like hugging goodnight, and then it turns into like little chaste goodnight kisses, and so it was just like really sweet. It's definitely like a slow burn. He's so respectful of her, has like good boundaries set up for them as they're kind of navigating this. And eventually her past comes a knockin', and this stalker guy found her and shows up. And so now they're dealing with this guy being in town, knowing he's there looking for her. And some things start happening around the ranch. There's like a small fire. Some things like gates are left open that shouldn't be. There was like a blockage in the little stream, and now the water is not getting to them, and they go and see that it was intentional. So all these things start happening, and the 4 of them have to kind of be on the defense, and are like, kind of making plans to fight this guy if he shows up to try to get something from Ivy. And they're all committed to like, nope, she's one of our own now. We will defend her in whatever way we need. I don't want to give away the ending because there's kind of a climax that happens with that whole situation, and the tension with the townspeople being mad about him having black workers on his ranch. So all of the things come to a head at once, and it's a mess. And so they have to really dig in and defend their land. And of course, it's a romance, so it's gonna have a sweet, happy ending. And I was very happy with it. So like I said, I haven't written my review yet, but what I loved about this story was the mail order bride thing, the Irish immigrant thing. I don't know why I always blend my words, guys. It always happens. I loved that part of it. Again, I loved their like slow burn. I like a good slow burn romance. I loved how like sweet and respectful he was. And I didn't mention it earlier, but like he just like was such a good provider. He was like, what's mine is yours. He would take her into town and like buy her things because she came with nothing. And it was so sweet. And I loved kind of like the homesteading frontier aspect. She's trying to grow a garden. She's trying to like, cook from scratch and provide nice meals. And I just really enjoy this time period. I've always been drawn to kind of that lifestyle, not one for the modern times so much. So yeah, it was just really sweet. Like I said, the faith content was very, very light. It was there, it was present. Again, it was more in the Catholic faith than like non-denominational Christian, I guess you could say. It didn't bother me whatsoever as a non-Catholic, but yeah, I really liked this story. I would definitely recommend it to those who like mail order bride stories, or just historical fiction in general, or like, I know kind of like the whole Oregon Trail going west thing is big right now this month. I think there are a few people doing readathons with that kind of theme. So this would be a great one for that, honestly. It's not specifically Oregon Trail, but it is that kind of moving west and starting life there. So I gave this one 4.25 stars. I gave the writing 4.5 stars, the characters and plot 5 stars. Faith and content, I gave 3 because again, this one was probably even lighter than the other two. Enjoyability of 4.5. So I think the reason I gave that less than 5 stars was just some predictability in the story. You know, it's definitely, I feel like with mail order stories, there's definitely a little bit of a formula. So it is very predictable in terms of that. I feel like most romances are though. But with that said, it was still highly enjoyable. I definitely will be reading the rest of this series for sure. I really liked Rachel's writing in general, was really good. I'm trying to see if she has the book 2 and 3 out yet, to let you know in case you don't like reading books that don't have a second one out yet. Let's see. Probably need to go on Amazon to find this instead because it's so hard to find on Goodreads. You can't really look by series. Let me do that instead. So again, this one was Home in the Mountains. Okay, yes, there already is a book 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So this, if you like a good series and just reading through, this is a good one. There is one that's Christmas in the Mountains, and I don't know if I'm going to try to read book 2 and 3 this fall so I can do the Christmas one in December. I might try to do that. Although book 3 looks fallish. Book 2, I'm not sure. But anyway, we'll see how that goes. But I might end up giving those a read in the fall because they were so cute and enjoyable. So that's it, guys, for my first half of August. I am currently reading, now I forgot the name of it as soon as I start to say it. As always, avids. Give me a sec. Give me a sec. I could go look at my Kindle, but it's across the room. I'm reading a book 2 from a book that I had read in July, and it is fantasy. I think it's The Gold Maiden. Yes, okay, it's The Gold Maiden, and it is part of the Songs of Adriel's book 2 by Jennifer Kropf. So that is the one I'm currently reading. I think I'm about 20% in right now. Like I said, I've just been so busy with like school and just like all of the moving, packing, logistical stuff, where am I going to live in America kind of things, that I just haven't been reading a lot this month, and that's fine. So yes, this is book 2. I had really loved and given 5 stars to book 1 in this series in July, which I think I did. I think that one was in my mid-month July, or did I? No, I didn't even do a mid-month. That's in my July video that I have not been able to get to download. So in general, this series is really, really great. So book 1 was called The Scarlet Star. And I loved that book so much. It was a 5-star for me. And so this one, The Gold Maiden, is what I'm reading now. I'm not sure if it's also going to be a 5-star so far. I am enjoying it because I really wanted to see what happened to the characters. I'm not enjoying it as much as I did book 1 so far, but like I said, it's still like early times in the book. So we'll see how it goes, but I will definitely include a review for that in my August wrap up at the end of the month. And yeah, just pray that I can figure out a solution to all these video issues that I'm having. If not, I might be doing some lives for the time being, just to get stuff up until I can figure it out or get a hard drive. But yeah, that's it for my mid-month August wrap up. I still have several books that I would like to get through. Today's the 21st, so I'll definitely finish The Gold Maiden. I might get through one more, but honestly, that's probably going to be it, just because things have been so crazy. So I see there's actually been a couple people watching. I'm not able to see the chat just because I'm doing this on my phone, but I'll reply if there are any messages in the chat later. Thank you guys for watching so much. Again, sorry for like the weird formatting and the unedited video, but I just really wanted to get the video up before it got too close to the end of the month and I forgot what I read. So as always, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the August end of month wrap up in a week or two. And yeah, I'll see you then. Have a good one. Bye.